Alright, so there's been a few updates since my last video on the Enphase storage system. There's probably two major ones that I really want to talk about today. One, Enphase has opened up that DER port in the IQ System Controller 3 for additional PV. It used to be, for really the last couple of years, that you could only add additional storage to that DER port. They have now just opened that up for additional PV. And the reason why this is amazing is because now we don't have to deal with those darn split systems. So in the event that your PV exceeds 64 amps continuous or an 80 amp backfed breaker there in the PV port in the IQ system controller, you can now add an additional several strings up to another additional 64 amps continuous landed in this DER port. Now there's a few things that you're going to have to know about that. Let's say you've got your IQ combiner here with your IQ gateway landed in the gateway port over here in the IQ system controller. If you add another system, this may be a solar load center, it may be another IQ combiner. It really doesn't matter, but what does matter is that we're only utilizing one IQ gateway on site. If you use multiple IQ gateways, the system's going to malfunction. You're going to be dealing with all those issues that the old split systems cause, and it just wreaks havoc on the system, and it's just guaranteed to end up in the O&M department for quite a long time. So we want to avoid that at all costs, and so what we're going to do is, ideally we just land this in a solar load center with no gateway at all. We land it in the DER port. Those micros are going to report through power line communications, through those wires, out the PV port, over here to the IQ gateway. And they are going to follow that command from the IQ gateway. So all micros on site, regardless of what port they're landing in, are all reporting to the same IQ gateway. Alright, now if you end up using two IQ combiners, maybe you just don't feel like buying a load center, whatever the case may be, that's fine, but we need to abandon the IQ gateway over here. So that is going to be just removing that power supply from that IQ gateway well before the commissioning process, so that it is just abandoned. It's never going to receive power, it's never going to report, and it's never going to cross-contaminate the power line communications in the system. The other thing is, we need this IQ gateway to accurately monitor PV production. So really what you're going to need to do here, if you've got PV landing in two different ports, we're only utilizing one IQ gateway to monitor production. We're only using one PV-CT to monitor production. What we're really going to have to do is, there's going to be your little PV-CT down here in the bottom of the combiner. You know, you run your strings through it before you land them in your breaker. Everybody knows how to do that, right? We're going to have to do that with both systems. So this one as well, we'll have to run over through the PV-CT back over there to the DER port, and that way we get accurate revenue grade monitoring on the PV production of both Enphase microinverters. The next biggest development is Enphase's PCS. PCS is just what we're going to have to deal with moving forward in the industry. It's a great feature that has come out across the board to help us minimize those expensive electrical upgrades that the solar industry has faced for so many years, but it can get pretty complex. It varies per manufacturer, and we need to program PCS or power control systems correctly. So what we've got here, a few forms. We've got battery over subscription PCS. Again, none of these ports can take more than 64 amps continuous. So that's going to be 4 5P batteries. But let's say, say you've got 6 batteries and only one PV system, that's fine. You can land the other 2 in the DER port. No battery over subscription needed. But in this case, if you've got multiple PV systems, you're using up that DER port, or maybe you've got IQ System Controller 3G for generator, and you don't have that DER port to work with, you got more than 4 batteries, what we need to do is we need to use battery over subscription PCS to minimize the current coming out of those batteries to remain under 64 amps continuous. And so you just go into the app. It's pretty basic. It will follow along. You just got to make sure program that battery over subscription PCS so that, if you have more than 4 batteries, they don't go and trip that breaker. All right, so next is Enphase bus bar overload PCS. This is great. It's much better than the old MPU avoidance PCS because we can put the consumption CTs where they belong, upstream of all home loads. So basically, what bus bar overload PCS does, you go into the app under PCS. You basically just have to enter the bus bar rating on the panel, the main breaker rating on the panel, and the backfed breaker rating of the entire Enphase storage system. And basically, Enphase is going to calculate that on its own. And what it is going to do is it's going to monitor all power coming in from the grid through the consumption CTs. It's going to monitor all power coming through the batteries from the battery CT. It's going to monitor all production from the solar panels coming through that revenue grade monitoring CT for the PV. And it's going to just make sure that the combination of the PV, the batteries, and the grid combined never exceed the bus bar rating of the panel. That's going to avoid us having to do things like main breaker derates or main panel upgrades due to the 120% rule. Last, we've got export limitation PCS. This is going to only really be needed in situations to avoid transformer upgrades. It could also be used in situations like in California when we're adding a new zero export system to a homeowner's home that already had PV under a previous net metering policy. In that case, you're just going to set that export limitation, whatever it is, in the app to make sure that we confine to those utility limits. Lastly, IQ Combiner 6. This is the 4th generation of Enphase batteries. It's going to be coming out anytime now. We're just waiting on that training to be released. But this is going to be just a whole new game changer of the Enphase system. It is going to get rid of that IQ system controller altogether. It's just going to have one gigantic IQ Combiner 6 that's going to sort of take all of these generation sources all into one piece of equipment. They're up in the batteries to a 10 kilowatt hour battery. And so that's just going to ultimately minimize the amount of equipment all over the wall and stuff you have to wire up. Once all that gets released and all the design and installation parameters are clearly communicated, we'll release a new training module on that. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, take care.